Hey, Nicholas. Fantastic having a conversation with you last week. I think what you're doing at Scale Power is beautiful. I think it's needed in the market. It's very clear that you guys have product market fit. If you just save people money, it's a fantastic idea. So I wanted to give you some thinking about how we might do go to market together, how you might think about the pain and some traditional paths that I see a lot of companies go down, and why I think that those paths are tremendously inefficient. So let's dive in. All right, let's talk about an engagement overview. So we're going to go through sort of what an engagement blueprint would look like, but you're going to get a ton of value from this presentation, even if you decide to never work with me. It always begins with the journey frame. This is really important so you understand what are the problems that a lot of founders run into as they start to hire sales and marketing, and hopefully I'm going to save you from some of those problems. It's based on limited internal context, so just full transparency. As you know, we haven't signed an NDA. I don't really know a bunch of things about how many customers you have, that kind of stuff. So this is really thinking versus implementation. We might change actually what we implement, but this is just how I think. Then I'm going to talk to you about engagement overview. We'll go over pricing, scope, etc. So the outline of the presentation is we're going to talk about patterns to go to market. We're going to talk about scoring your total addressable market and playbooks, and then an engagement outline. So let's dive in. So I'm going to quickly summarize what you do from my understanding. This is helpful because I'm going to share this video on LinkedIn and actually promote your business as part of this, because I think everyone should be using Scale Power. So from a one-liner, Scale Power is group discounts for buy now, pay later tech for e-commerce companies, saving them up to 40% on every buy now, pay later transaction. So based on your website, it looks like you support Zip, Klarna, Split, Afterpay, Sezzle, and Affirm. So what I did is basically the benefit here is you can save 40% on buy now, pay later merchant fees. And then here are the associated pains as I just Googled, right? And then I took that Google number and knocked 40% off the top, right? So you can take a quad pay transaction, which Google says is can be up to 25% of the total transaction, and move it to 15. Sezzle 6 to 3.6, Klarna, Affirm, etc. So, and to be clear, I know that you're not going to take a Klarna customer and then try to convert them to a Scale Power Klarna customer, that you really want to take either people that may be using a competitor and get them on a group rate from Affirm, or people that aren't using buy now, pay later and sell them on the technology. So basically, put another way, you can take a $500 transaction that uses quad pay, which is a $125 fee based on just public information, maybe this is wrong, and turn it into a $9 transaction fee using their discount split it rate. So you talk about a 40% savings, but if you go from the most painful buy now, pay later transaction to the least painful buy now, pay later transaction, that's a 93% savings. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's a good idea to go to those quad pay customers and bring them to split it. There may be other reasons that quad pay charges that much. It might be that they can afford higher rates or higher total dollar value checkouts as an example. So let's talk about pain calculation for buy now, pay later companies where it's not on the site, where they don't already have a buy now, pay later transaction. So I looked at SimilarWeb's analysis on buy now, pay later conversion bump, and it looks like you can get a 2% conversion bump by adding buy now, pay later. So this is based on some basic SimilarWeb data here. So if we can understand average checkout value per industry, we can use traffic data to reverse into an increased conversion number with SimilarWeb data. So we actually can calculate the additional dollar value that they will get by adding a buy now, pay later option on their site. And this allows us to forecast a few things: what their monthly conversion rate increase would look like based on an average cart value, which we just talked about. We can forecast their revenue, and based on that revenue, we can actually tell them about what each of these individual buy now, pay later merchants would charge them for that additional revenue, and then what you would charge them. So you actually can educate the prospect. And it might be that a certain number of industries have more buy now, pay later transactions at a lower percent with a higher average cart values. So we want to take those into account as well. So it might mean that a clothing brand, actually more people use buy now, pay later transactions than a travel company. So we do want to have an industry filter on this. And this is based on your understanding as well. So this will be about us working together to extract those models. So let's talk about pain calculation for companies with buy now, pay later already on the site. So we can reverse into the same pain based on the percentage of their revenue and traffic, and actually talk about what switching from one buy now, pay later to a competitor might look like. And again, in the most extreme example, we can go from the highest to lowest, but it might also be that we can look at similar banded, like Affirm and Klarna may actually have a very similar fee. And we can say, okay, because they have a similar fee and we kind of know their feature sets are the same, we can go after people using Klarna and say, hey, you should add Affirm to your site because I can save you X, Y, or Z fees if you switch to Affirm. So we want to understand, too, kind of what the difference is in the different buy now, pay later competitors. And this is just a case study that Klarna had about AOV, et cetera, with companies that use buy now, pay later. All right, let's talk about patterns of go-to-market. So that's some specific things that we might think about when we think about TAM scoring. But first, what happens is the founder does manual sales. So it seems like you're kind of in this motion right now, and this is really good because it allows you to test a lot. You learn what does and what doesn't work. You have clout. You have industry clout being a co-founder. You've got really amazing networks, especially with Juno at your back, and you have a super nuanced understanding of who your customer is and isn't. So you might know that actually someone that uses Klarna today and not Afterpay or Affirm, that's a different type of customer than a customer that's using all four of the buy now, pay later options. And you start to build these models, and that's so helpful, and you kind of don't realize how much you know. So then there comes a point where you need to scale. And the problem with scaling is this sort of John Culkin quote, which is, we shape our tools and thereafter our tools shape us. And so a lot of the founders have the mental model of what tools are available. And because they've been doing things by hand, they think, I'll just hire someone and allow them to do it by hand. The problem is that the sales rep has no leverage. They cannot use technology in their job to be able to provide 10x leverage because the market's been spammed. You give them Zoom Info and LinkedIn Sales Navigator, and you want them to hunt and peck for the entire world. There's no leverage there. Path 2 is pay for ads. Problem with this path is that it's a black box. You can give Facebook $100,000 a month, and they will deliver you a certain number of clicks for that price. You can say, wow, look at all these clicks that Facebook delivered. But because you don't have a good understanding of who's in pain, who's seeing my ad, are they in $1 pain, $10 pain, or $100 amounts of pain, you have no opportunity to 10x that. Sure, you can give Facebook more money, but you can't improve the money that you're already giving. You can't 10x your conversion rates. So why should you bother doing this? What's the point? So you can hire much fewer sales reps and they can spend all their time in the mid-funnel. Reps waste an average of somewhere between 10 to 20 hours a week sort of finding accounts, determining what to say to them, especially if they're focused most of their time on outbound, inventing messaging over and over for every prospect, finding emails, sending those emails. So if you look at an average rep salary of $80K a year, it's about $20,000 a year in wasted time per rep. Reps also blast your they burn your reputation by blasting huge swaths of account without sort of the time or resources to invest in each individual company to provide them a compelling message about pain. The types of things that I talked about earlier on, that's really relatively easy to do at scale, but hard to do individually because every rep is repeating the same amount of research on every account. And they don't usually have the tools or the understanding about which accounts are best because the founder hasn't downloaded that context. Also, if you take this approach, you can score your entire market by pain. This is the lean and mean approach. So you're going to know which accounts are worth $1 or $100,000 to you. You're going to know which customers not to target. You're also going to know which customers you could save $1 or $100,000, and you can rank the entire market. We now can buy data like this. You're going to also improve marketing conversions 5 to 10x with really great messaging. So because if you can target only people by their spending, waste, or opportunity, you can say very specific things to them, and you can target only the store owners, or the heads of marketing, whoever. So you can not only know exactly who you're sending this messaging to, but the messaging can be so specific about their pain. Using Klarna now, you're probably paying X too much for buy now, pay later. Want a better way? You also know the value of every domain in the market. This means you can send a message to the CEO and say, hey, you can empower the reps to do this too. Hey, I have to, my co-founders are forcing me to take someone out to $1,000 dinner. Would you like to go? It's on the company, right? You can do crazy things like that because you know if you close this deal, it's a $3 million deal for both of you. You can also create landing pages for every e-com site that qualifies. So with this data, you can quantify that pain for your entire market. This also allows you to do thought leadership at the industry level. You can rank all of these for example, clothing stores, some that use some buy now, pay later, some that don't, and talk about their fees in sort of a structured way. Now, you might not want to do that because of your relationship with these buy now, pay later companies, but you could talk about the folks that don't have buy now, pay later and do some thought leadership there. And I'm sure all of the companies that you partner with would love that. All right, you need a better strategy. So give me a place to stand with the lever and I'll move the whole world. So it's really relatively simple. So the first is to translate your context. What do you know about buy now, pay later, about each of these merchants, about the market, about the industries? So extract that context from you, Nicholas, and document it. We have a process for that. Then we're going to score your entire total addressable market by pain. Those are some of the heuristics we looked at earlier. And the good thing is once you do that, you can go from a multi-channel world to an omni-channel world. So you know the companies that you want to target, and you can provide cold calls to for the reps to call just the right domains. Invite them out to dinner, send them direct mail, run ads against them, send them cold email. So you can say, let's just pick off the top 5% of our market that we know we can deliver immense amounts of value to. All right, now let me talk about this buy now, pay later and scoring the TAM. I'm actually going to go over some of the concepts that we talked about a little bit earlier. So there's going to be a little bit of duplication here, but I want to talk about why we think about the TSM, the total serviceable market versus TAM. So the TSM should be fine from your customer's perspective. And here are sort of three key ideas that we like to think about. If we picked a random company out of the hat, 80% should be qualified to buy your product or service. Now, this is really good for you because we know, is it an e-commerce company? Are they using buy now, pay later? It's limited to employees and location is not enough. You need at least one qualifier. So in your case, that might be, do they already have a buy now, pay later solution? Yes or no. It might be, are they in certain industries where we know we can provide a ton of buy now, pay later? It might be, are they e-commerce and do they care about middle of the funnel tech? I don't know exactly what it looks like for you, but basically this allows us to reverse into the value that you could provide every company and have some heuristic to score the entire market. And ideally, if we scored your existing customers by this rubric, they would look like great fits from the outside. So I think one of the first things for us to think about is the presence of buy now, pay later and overlap with providers. So which providers are using buy now, pay later today? And we might actually first start with a list of all the e-commerce companies in the world, and then which stores have buy now, pay later options and what's the overlap? So if someone has Klarna, Affirm, and QuadPay, what does that mean? If someone has Afterpay, Sezzle, and Split, what does that mean? If they're using just Klarna, is there an opportunity there to bring Afterpay to them, for example? And these are just some screenshots of built with data so you can get some understanding about what is the density in the market. Now, it may be that, a firm has only 12,000 customers, but they may target only huge e-commerce companies. So it might be that a firm is really best off for the top 5,000 e-commerce websites in the world, where Klarna is better for the sort of small and pop SMB. And you probably have some context of this understanding, but these are the heuristics that we want to know and to score the entire market against. Estimated revenue or reverse into traffic. So you can use out-of-the-box revenue data or traffic data to reverse into an average cart value and then calculate percentage of revenue from buy now, pay later. So there's a handful of different revenue pieces here. On the left is store. We've got Crunchbase. We've got store leads and SimilarWeb. So 3 different kind of estimations of revenue, but you can also reverse into this via traffic and average checkout percentage and average cart value. So it's not imperative that you get this perfectly right. If people can see how you're doing the math, they can say, okay, well, actually we've got about this amount of traffic or about Y conversion rate. But yeah, we can see how that would work with the bump. This is just some example of how store leads calculates, or maybe this is SimilarWeb. I'm not sure which. I think this is store leads, how they calculate the revenue. We might also, this is SimilarWeb data, so we might actually want to understand what are their total visits and what is their bounce rate, pages per page, visits per page, so we can have an understanding, okay, what does this look like with existing customers where we have data, and use that as a benchmark. So industry sorting, so some industries may use buy now, pay later more, have higher ACVs, or generally would benefit more from buy now, pay later, so we want to have an understanding of industries. Historical buy now, pay later, so who used to have buy now, pay later options and have removed it. Maybe they removed it for a cost reason. Average price on the homepage, so this is something we can get. So we might actually look for who has a higher average price on the homepage and determine if the retailer takes payment up front. So I'm not sure if we can tell that, but one example might be to look at the 4 interest-free payments. And with Zip, it may be that if they're taking 4 interest-free payments, we know that they're taking money not upfront. So that's another question we might want to ask. Future industry growth to forecast losses without buy now, pay later. So as the buy now, pay later industry grows and more people start to become comfortable with it and use it, we can actually forecast what that lack of buy now, pay later might look over time. Channel distribution and conversion tech. So it might be that they are spending a lot of money on marketing, and paid spend might indicate the scope of how much money companies are investing in marketing. So this is top of the funnel, right? To have some heuristic about how important is top of the funnel to them. And then how important is middle of the funnel? So conversion tech might be a really good indicator here that people are spending things to capture emails, coupons, etc., that they're interested in middle of the funnel, which might be a better opportunity for you to play in necessarily than top of the funnel. But the two in combination might say something even more important to us. All right, let's talk about playbooks. So those are heuristics that we'll take across all of the domains in your total addressable market and score. So a playbook is a structured compilation of public data that we think identifies companies likely in pain. And in the TSM, we've scored every company and their amount of pain. So the components of a playbook, it's always comprised of companies in the TSM, the total serviceable market. It's focused on one ideal customer profile, so that's really important. It has a single persona in mind, the founder, head of marketing, etc., and it speaks to structured pain. These are examples from another client, but to give you an example, it speaks to structured pain. So that might be you use one buy now, pay later vendor and you're spending X amount too much probably. And 100x targeting, which is what we spend a good amount of the time, is better than 100x more personalization. So we want to identify the companies that are in pain, describe the world based on that pain, and then go to them with that data and say, here's why we think you're in X or Y amount of pain. And if you get the targeting right, your prospects, you basically can just describe the pain to them and say, did I get it right? And that's all we're testing. So I don't have to personalize. I don't have to talk about your dog. I don't have to talk about what university you went to. I don't talk about how you like socks. I like socks. Oh my God, we're the same person. You need our service. None of that stuff. All right, let's talk about just like playbook ideas. Off the cuff, right? Some just thoughts I had. Most number of buy now, pay later tools, which means they rely heavily on this and they're thinking about margins, and without the lowest cost competitor. So we might say, hey, you're not using Split It, but you are using these other competitors. Maybe you want to add this other competitor. Maybe you even favorite them. And that means that you can drop your transaction fees with QuadPay, which is X, down to Y with our discount with Split It, which is Z amount of savings. No buy now, pay later tools, but lots of last mile conversion tech. So maybe they really care about that. They're investing in tools for the last mile conversion, right? So they're tracking. They have an understanding of, you can detect things on the page that mean that they really care about that conversion, exit intent surveys, kind of stuff like that. Lowest cost buy now, pay later, and the highest cost. So if they have people on both ends of the spectrum, it might mean some different things about their business. Historical buy now, pay later. So maybe in the case that they have historically installed buy now, pay later, but removed it, it might be a cost issue. Buy now, pay later only on some products, so lower cost or higher cost products. That means that they might be wanting to save money on buy now, pay later by not offering it for their lowest cost products because the fees are too high. So you actually can expand the pie for them. Percentage of a category with buy now, pay later option versus an individual site. So if you found that, for example, 80% of the industry had buy now, pay later, but this particular site didn't, that might mean something interesting. And then spending the most on marketing with high traffic and no buy now, pay later. So, all right, let's talk about engagement. So here's everything about engagement. Basically, it starts with the researching of the total serviceable market, which I just talked to you about. Now, in your case, we actually may need some additional data. I think we could get by with the data that we have, but if we had to buy SimilarWeb, for example, that might be a different component, which we don't have a cost in for today, or StoreLeads.app. Those are two really great data sources that we might have to figure out that if that traffic analysis was absolutely critical, or if we really needed that rich e-commerce data, we just would have you get a license and we would consume that data. So that's how that would work. We do have really rich data to be able to score what's happening at the individual site, which I'll go through in a minute. Defining the ICP and buyer persona, top-down pain. So what are the key moments where people really want to solve buy now, pay later, whether it's added on their site or get a lower cost vendor? Bottom-up pain. So talk to us about your existing customers and what were the moments that they're like, yes, Scale Power just really saved us much money. Market differentiation. So why are you different? And maybe that difference is just a cost difference, which is great. I'm not going to go into this, but this is kind of what the weekly timeline looks like. Let's talk about scope, deliverables, and price. So you'll get a go-to-market strategy session fueled by pain-based targeting. We'll do TSM analysis, segmentation, and scoring. We'll end up sending 15 playbooks. You get 10,000 contacts. We're just testing. When we scale this, we can just turn up the volume, but we just want to know, is it working? Now, website, company, and people signals, we'll be able to scrape sites and determine structured data about what's happening there. So I will be able to tell you, do they have buy now, pay later tech? How much of it do they have? What's the overlap? So you will get data that's both data that's like built with, as well as we have a custom provider that will go and score sites. Now, we won't get things like similar web data, so if we want to add to that, we can definitely incorporate that. We also won't get things like storeleads.app, great place for e-commerce store leads. So that would be something that we could consume that data, and we would work with you to, you guys are a negotiated vendor, so maybe you can actually get them to give you a better price and help us resell those services to other people. A little inception there. But we will have enough in this engagement to be able to do a lot of these types of things that I talk about. We just might not be able to get down to the exact traffic numbers. We also have jobs data, so we have an understanding of who's hiring, what types of roles are they hiring, what are important to those folks. You do get segmentation of an ICP plus its primary buyer persona, so we'll help you tease that out. Scoring, we'll do all the copy, outbound email sequence. We'll give you the name, email. You can add phone. You can add address if you want to send these folks direct mail. You will get ad audiences with these folks, so you can run ads them as well as cold email. 2 phases. The first phase, we spend a lot of time, first 2 months, on total addressable market scoring and quantifying of the pain. Phase 2 is we deploy 15 outbound email playbooks to validate messaging against moments of customer pain. You're going to have 5 to 10 hours of homework each week. In the first part, that's going to be more strategy. In the second part, it's going to be more execution. So we'll give you copy and email, and the faster you can send email, the more playbooks that you can get in an engagement, and the more we're going to be able to test more things. We don't integrate with your systems. Our vendors will, and we're not sending emails as us, so you will send emails as you, and you'll manage replies in the tool of your choice, and then you'll just report back to us the results so we can modify for the next campaign. It's a 4-month project length. Our fee is $19K a month. We have 2 partners, $30K for the entire engagement, so it's $106,000 for the entire engagement. The way that we talk about this value is it's going to 5 to 10x any of your marketing spend conversion rates, as well as save your SDRs a bunch of time. Now, you haven't yet sort of gone down the path of hiring, 5, 10, 20 SDRs without sort of this effort. So you're a little bit early. So in this case, we would actually solve you from a pain that you haven't yet experienced. And we would allow you a much, much, much more efficient go-to-market than starting to invest money in marketing or hiring sales reps. We could give you a lot of leverage. And then these are our 2 data providers what some of their ongoing fees look like. All right, that's everything. Thanks so much, Nicholas, for spending so much time with me here on this video and for watching all the way through. And for the folks that are watching on LinkedIn, thanks for getting here. And you should congratulate yourself for learning a little bit more about how to think about sort of total addressable market scoring, playbooks by pain, and understanding the value that you provide to your customers. Thanks again. And Nicholas, I look forward to hearing back from you. Bye.